Hey guys, Art17 here, and we're going to talk about week 8, which we are in now, the midterm, middle of the semester. And let's talk a little bit about the midterm presentation, although I did send a email out today, and I'll talk about it here as well. Midterm presentation is a 5-minute long PowerPoint or Google slide or possibly a video you make presenting. And your options are presenting on an artist, a particular artist, or a particular art movement, surrealism, pop art, post-impressionism, uh, impressionism, abstract expressionism. There are a lot of them. So look it up, find one you like if you want to do one of those. Or you can do it on art history, something about art history in particular. All right, so you can pick any of those subjects. 5 minutes long, so or longer, but time yourself so it is at least 5 minutes long. Reading it, viewing it, practice. Make sure that it is that long, or I'll have to mark it down. So, also, it is to contain and provide several images, 5 or more images of what you're talking about, whatever you're presenting on. Examples of someone's work or the process or something about art history. Provide images that outline and support what you're talking about and what you're presenting on, okay? And also, it's got to contain text that is concise but goes from a introduction to a body of work to a conclusion relatively. It doesn't have to be long and drawn out, but you can fit a lot of content in there in 5 minutes or longer. So make sure that you do cover your subject and present it well. Also, I want to hear about you research the cultural aspects of whatever subject you're talking about. So let's say it was on tattoo or something. Then, of course, tattoo has a very big cultural background going back, many, many years in different countries. So you want to align that to at least one or two particular cultures that you're talking about where tattoo came from, or whatever it is. Even artists had cultures where the country they came to, or maybe they were very influenced by a certain art style, or Paris artists, or uh, Renaissance, or research where it came from. Add in some cultural aspect to your subject, even if it's a subculture. Like if you did something about surf art or biker art, they all have a cultural background that they align to in some way or another, or the culture of biking or biker or surf or whatever it is. Sports culture, those are all like subcultures from other cultures. So really outline that as part of your presentation. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. It doesn't have to be even the majority or even half. Just a part of it. Talk about culture and cultural backgrounds. Maybe to the artist or the art style, where it came from, where it originated, and its connection to that culture. All right. And then also you are to create your own artwork, one piece of your own artwork that aligns with and relates to your subject. So that must be included in your presentation, your own artwork, one piece. It isn't all about your artwork. It's about what you're presenting on, but your artwork could be uh, fairly predominant. You can show more than one piece. I'm just saying to show at least one piece of your own artwork. Okay. And I think that about says it all right there. If you have any questions, let me know. I also outlined it in an email, so look for that email. And it can be about anything. Doesn't have to be about drawing or painting. Could be about several different other things in art. But you must be able to produce your own artwork that relates to that subject or that art style or whatever you're talking about in art. You must produce your own artwork, one piece. Okay, and then time it, and then also then send it to me in an email attachment to my email address. We've been communicating on since the beginning of the term, and send it to me by Sunday night, the 16th. Okay. Let's talk about assignment number 14, full face portrait. So let's see if I can find full face portraits, drawings. So first thing, I'm going to have a video on this, so watch that. But typically the head is kind of like an egg shape. Egg shape more than not. And it does have, maybe somebody has jowls down here that more than someone else. Like this one, pretty thin down here. This one's kind of getting a little puffy. Or this one. So it's a full face, meaning facing you directly. It's not like this one. That's a 3/4 view. We'll do that later. This one's 3/4. This and this and this, all the ones looking straight at you are all full face portraits. What you want to do basically is make the head shape, then start putting in the facial features, the eyes, the nose, and mouth. And then start shading in, and then adding more shading. That's a good way to start. Although in the video, I think maybe they do it a slightly different way, but you can gather different information and then do it the way that's best for you. I do this way, starting out with sort of a circle and making a jaw area here and cheeks, which ends up being maybe sort of like an egg shape, maybe not quite, but more than not. Facial features, eyes basically in the middle of the head, not way up here. And don't crop off your forehead so it's really short up here. Because the eyes, and there's a lot of distance right here. It's about the same amount of distance from here to the middle of the eyes as it is from the middle eyes down to the chin. Then the nose and mouth fit in there relatively, maybe a third of the way down, another third, but closer to the nose, and then you have a distance here. Now everybody's going to vary a little, but you are to work not from imagination, from a photo. It could be you or someone else that you're drawing, okay? But a photo straight on with a good single light source, meaning maybe one side or the other, so that you have a shadowy area on one side and then maybe not so much on the other. Straight on light source is not going to give you very many shadow areas, and it's going to be harder to shade to get the shape of the face. But when you have light coming from one side or the other side, you get these shadowy areas and light areas, and that creates more opportunities to shade in and get your shape from the contrast. Okay, and this will be explained in the video, so watch the video. Let's go back, and what we don't want to do is have no shading at all, and that's going to be more like a cartoon face, which is not going to be appropriate for this course. We want shading, and for this assignment, definitely shading that shows the shape of the face, okay? And don't make it cartoon. I want realism, and then you can do cartoon some other time when you learn realism. You learn how to do realistic forms, then you can branch off to cartoon. Okay, so here's some examples. Take your own photo of your face or someone else, or use another model not imagination, okay? And I'll know the difference when you send it to me. And just remember that all lips are not all the same tone. They have various tones where the lips are because of light hitting the lips, and the lips are rounded, so they're going to catch light on part of it and not on the other. And it's going to be light and dark tones that make the shape of that lip, both lips show up. Same with the nose. And something else you want to remember is that there's no lines on the side of the nose. This is shading in here. It's not a line and a line and a line and a line. Don't border the whole thing with lines because it really isn't accurate unless you drew those on your face. You know, if you don't have lines on your face, it's not accurate. It's all shading that ends and begins or meets up with other shading that make this happen. The lips don't have a line around them unless you painted them on your face, and then okay, we'll discuss that. But mostly, lips and noses do not have lines on them to border them, okay? It's all shading that meets up with other shading and ends. It doesn't have a borderline. You don't need the borderline, okay? You just don't need it. You don't need the borderline around the cheeks and chin either. You can just shade and have it stop somewhere, and that's going to indicate your edge or where the edges are. This one doesn't have a lot of shading. It's pretty washed out, but you can see what I mean. There's no lines around the lips, no line around the whole chin and everything, because that's just shading that ends here, and then you got the darker shade here and darker shades here underneath that meet up with that, and then that shows you where your edge is without lines. If you send it to me with border lines, I'm going to ask you to erase it out, so don't do it like this one. You know, that has like a borderline here. It's not really accurate. You're going into cartoon there when you do that. Because really look at your photo and look at your face or whoever you're drawing, and there'll be no lines there. So don't put them in. Just use shading that ends somewhere, like this one. That's a shade that ends right there. And it might have a bold shading line there, but it's not like a writing line. Okay. So look at the video, watch the video, and start getting these together. Always remember that when you show a reflection mark in an eye, and then you darken in parts of the corner of the eye, or right above where there's a shadow from the upper lid, that shows that it's a good way to show the eye is rounded and it has a glassy appearance, because you have that reflection mark, and that's really going to show your glassy appearance. Let me see if I can, and most of these do have that, okay? Even this one, kind of looking down, but yeah, and see the eye white area is not totally white all the way through. It has little areas where it's been shaded in a little on the corners, maybe around the bottom and the top. So look for that in your own eyes. It's not totally white as paper. And you make it white as paper, it's going to look flat. It won't look rounded. So when you put that shading in around the corners of the eyes, or even if you have reflection marks on the white part, like this one does, and right here on the pupil, or this one's a 3/4 view, so don't do that. I'm just showing the reflection mark being on the pupil and the iris, okay? And all that works out for you. Watch the video. It'll outline this again and talk about it when they get to the shading part. And there may be two videos, like part 1 and part 2. All right. So just remember the midterm is due this week by Sunday night. All right. We'll talk with you later.